We do this segment every week just so that we can get you advice as to how you can stay mentally and physically fit and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Now, India is known as the diabetes capital of the world, and this is a near and constant threat for a lot of us, particularly because of the change in our diets and lifestyles over the course of the last few decades. Now, this Fitness Friday, I'd like to get you a sense of how to safeguard yourself against this disease, and if you've already found out that you're diabetic, what you need to know to curb its harmful effects. Join me now is Dr. Anil Bhoraskar, who is Senior Diabetologist at SL Raheja Hospital, and he's also the Secretary of the Diabetic Association of India. Thank you so much, Doctor, for taking the time. I'm going to start with a broad question, which is how can you contract diabetes?
Well, the diabetes, as you know, is a multifactorial disease. You cannot really pinpoint one single cause. Formerly, we thought there are only three organs involved: pancreas, liver, and muscle. But now we call it a dirty dozen. There are 12 organs involved, and 12 etiopathogenesis can affect and cause you diabetes. So there's a multifactorial syndrome. And one of them is, of course, your genes. There's no doubt about it. But the point is, in spite of the genetic makeup, which is of a thin fat Indian, Indians are known to have a thin fat Indian. Their BMI is less than 21, but their abdominal obesity is 88 centimeters. Now seems to be the major cause of getting diabetes. And that is what we are all fighting. When you started talking that India is a diabetes capital of the world, I would like to correct it that we are all making efforts to make it India as a diabetes care capital of the world. Not only diabetes capital, but we are going to be caring for the diabetes. And that is our motto.
Absolutely. In fact, that is the objective of this program as well, to send out as much information as possible to prevent the disease. But you mentioned, the thin fat Indian, and if I'm not mistaken, it relates to the famine gene, right, which is the propensity to put on weight around the midriff. Of course, this is lifestyle related in many senses. Wouldn't you agree, doctor? So is it only a lack of exercise and a propensity to eat certain types of food that you need to prevent?
There are multiple factors which are predominantly involved in the dietary factors. Now, all the Indians, they have a very large carbocentric diet. Our diet consists of a lot of carbohydrates because you know why? The carbohydrates are easily available, they are cheap, and they have been a traditional dietary factors in India. But the point is, the carbohydrates which are of a finer nature. I'm not talking simple sugars. I'm talking about the carbohydrates that you derive from rice and wheat are certainly more detrimental than the carbohydrates that you do from a very complex carbohydrate, which has a lot of fiber, like bhakri, like jwari, like multigrain. But we do not include this in our diet. We eat predominantly rice, wheat, chapati, bread, pav, which is a maida, which is dangerous again, the bakery products. So this is our traditional diet which has changed. It's very funny that India, we did not know what was diabetes, heart disease, and cancer before 1960. It's only when we started eating this diet and we started replacing our dietary fat, which was a very, very healthy dietary fat, such as coconut and ghee, by polyunsaturated N6 containing a ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 more than 10, saying that this will contain less cholesterol, and the phobia of cholesterol, we have started eating all kind of wrong fats. That is the real culprit. Not only carbohydrates, but the wrong dietary fats. And we are paying penalty for that. Today, we are not only going to have number of cases dying of heart disease, but believe me, in next 10 years, India will have number of deaths due to cancer And that is a great, great misery because the cost involved in managing cancer, chemotherapy, radiation is beyond the means of a common man. Leave on a common man, even the middle class cannot afford.
Certainly. So, therefore, doctor, you mentioned a few things already, but why don't we drive home the point? You said the change in diet, right? And I see some of the pointers that you've already sent us in terms of what you should pay attention to in terms of your breakfast, in terms of your lunch and your dinner. Could you give a sense of what the ideal diet should contain?
I tell you what I recommend to my friends and all my patients, and I make a point to tell them that your breakfast should be like a king, your lunch should be like a middle class man, your dinner should be like a pauper beggar. Now, when I tell them this, they say, "What are you talking?" I say, "You eat a healthy breakfast, not a heavy breakfast." What is the meaning of the healthy breakfast? It should contain more proteins, less carbohydrates, more coming from sprouts, milk, yogurt, very little bread, very little wheat, dalia, upama. These are the things they should include in the diet. And a good citric fruit. Keep a gap of 1 hour between breakfast and the fruit. Do not take fruit with the breakfast. Take a gap of 1 hour. Why? When you take fruit with the major meal, it increases the glycemic index of the fruit. So do not mix fruit with your food. So keep a gap. Now that you do it after you take a breakfast, around mid-meal, you feel little hungry. Don't eat rubbish at that time. Lot of eat pav bhaji, bhajia pakoda. Avoid that. Take a fruit, maybe a soup. Then lunch, very meager. Lunch should contain one roti, one bhakri, some sprouts, salads, and soup. Again, mid-meal snack before tea. With the tea, you can have some dalia and idli. Idli is very good because it contains 30% urid and rice, 70%. Urid is healthy, again a protein. Or you can have a dosa with less oil and a fruit. In a season of mango, I allow people to eat a mango. People are surprised. Mango, yes. Mango is created by God for you. What is created by God is good for humans. What is created by man is bad for man.
Very good point.
This is what I want to tell people. You can have a mango, but don't have amras and puri.
Right.
Have mango separate.
Yeah. And what
So
about
this is
dinner?
what I,
What about
for the
dinner?
dinner, very light dinner, maybe sprout, maybe a soup, maybe a bit of rice, because a lot of people can't sleep. Because in India, you take first rice, then varan bhat, then dahi bhat, then chorsa bhat. This is all nonsense. Unless you eat that and they fill their stomach full and they do boo, till then they don't go to sleep.
That is a very fair point, and in certain parts of the country there is the afternoon siesta as well. That is very important, right?
That is we have to change. First of all, I always tell people that after you eat, take a break of 15 minutes, just sit down, and after that you do what is known as Shata Pauli. Walk for 100 feet. Because immediately after food, don't walk, but keep a gap and walk, because you avoid the temptation of sleeping immediately after lunch or dinner. That is really detrimental. People have habit that they become hyperglycemic, kind of a snooze, because they go into stupor of hyperglycemia and go back to sleep. Many people sleep in the office also.
Yeah.
But that is not right.
That's true. I want to ask about a few modern concepts of healthy living, because you have, and the reason why I asked this is because you mentioned you should have a healthy breakfast, not a heavy breakfast. But a lot of people do away with breakfast entirely, doctor. They do intermittent fasting and they eat their first meal at 12:31 in the afternoon. Is that wrong?
Absolutely. The first thing in the morning, I tell you why. The body has a clock. That clock works with the clock created by God. The God has created a clock that the sun rises at a particular time, and your endorphins, your body's catecholamines, everything are governed completely by the stars as well as the planets, and they produce certain positive hormones in early stages in the morning. And then you realize that the morning you get up, you have a really good hunger. You curb that hunger by eating rubbish or taking 5-6 cups of tea, which has a lot of acidity, and taking farsan, sev, gathia, and murmura, and avoid a healthy breakfast. And at 1 o'clock, you eat rubbish. That is a pattern of many people. A lot of people, they say, I have no time to eat breakfast. I say, why the hell are you working so hard? And what is the idea of all that money? Because when you die, the great Saudi Arabia Sheikh, when he died, he had only 2 clothes on his body, one on the front and one on the leg. That is all that he took back, who had billions and billions of dollars worth of oil.
Yeah.
So you're not going to take it away anyway. So
That's true.
use it. And they use it rightly, judiciously. And the best part, a lot of people read newspaper. A lot of people discuss family issues at the breakfast table. They tend to see the progress card of their son, which is never satisfactory. They tend to see the bills given by their great wife. ये electricity का bill है, ये इसका bill है. Don't do these unpleasant things at the time of breakfast. Talk something good.
Doctor,
Listen to music.
one last point that I want to raise, which is how important is it to test on a regular basis, and what symptoms particularly would suggest an onset of diabetes?
I think it is very important that every person above the age of 40 should test for blood sugar. Even if you don't have a history, family history. Remember, you may be the first person in the family to start diabetes. It is not necessary that your parents have to have diabetes. After the age of 40, at least once a year, you should take a good fasting, and 2 hours after good carbohydrate challenge, a PP sugar, and one test known as HbA1c, glycosylated hemoglobin, to do it on a regular basis so that you know that your HbA1c is less than 6, fasting less than 100, post-lunch less than 140, then you do not have either diabetes or what is pre-diabetes or gestational diabetes. You must check, because don't wait for the symptoms to develop. Remember one thing, the telltale symptoms of diabetes, such as excessive urination, excessive thirst, weakness, fatigue, they develop when it's too late.
Yeah.
This is a progress for more than 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, true. Very fair point. Thank you so much, Dr. Bhoraskar, for taking the time. Really, it is a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much.